Hello, Paso. This is Wicked Ink 915, tattoo artist out of the borderland. I specialize in custom tattoos and digital art for band logos, business logos, and personalized art. Find me on Instagram at Wicked Ink underscore 915 or under Wicked Vinyl Creation to schedule appointments for your next tattoo or to get your personalized merch such as stickers, t-shirts, mugs, and patches. Thank you and have a great day.
We're here back on the BAMC Showcast. It's been a minute. We have a special Rock House episode here in the building. My guest this time is a jack of all trades musician. He's a musician, guitar player, producer. He's the executive producer over at Strange Daze Studios. He's also a sound tech. He does local and out of town gigs. He tours locally in El Paso and southern New Mexico, plus whatever bands pick him up. This guy is a full time music aficionado. He's new to the show, but not new to the brand. He ran sound for about more than half of Southwest Power Fest. Plus, he performed his own band, the Hector C Experiment. Hector Camarena, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. Now, what's your name? You just told me a minute ago off mic.
So my last name, I was told, means bed of sand. So it's like Gama Arena.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
See, you need to be working those like Mexico, like those Puerto Vallarta gigs, man.
It's kind of weird because when I go to Juarez and work over there, um my Spanish just fails me. It's just there's I'd like to say that there's like a newer level of speaking Spanish in Mexico, and I'm not up to par with it. So when they start speaking, there's a lot of words I never heard, and it just fucks me up. It just really ruins me. So I all of a sudden become this non-speaking Spanish speaker, and they're just looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?" Yeah.
Now you're saying Juarez. I know you play gigs in Juarez, but do you also do sound there as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually done a few shows there, starting back since 2018. I hadn't been in Juarez for over 10 or 15 years at that point.
Damn.
Yeah, so and that's because of my friend Javier Arriaga, who's an awesome musician here in El Paso and in Juarez. So
He's your drummer, correct?
yes, he does the Hector C experiment when he's available. I've had a couple drummers. Sergio Becerra, who's with the Roulettes. He was doing it when Javi wasn't able to do it, and I mean, I don't have any complaints with either dude. So
Your band, the Hector C Experiment, I'm kind of going to bounce around here. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the first time I saw you play was the Anita Strauss show back in 2021.
yeah, that wasn't my first show though, as the band, but that was pretty big show. My first show as the Hector C Experiment was opening for Paul Gilbert here at the Rock House.
Wait, I was here that night. Was it 29? It was before COVID, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and it was cool too because I met his tour manager Andy at the time. Sweet professional fucking dude. At the end of the night, he asked me if I wanted to meet Paul, and and I was like, hell yeah, dude. So he took me. I met Paul. We hung out for like a good hour, and down to earth dudes. And that was my first show. That was my first show as a solo artist. I had been wanting to do that since I was 18, but I don't know if it's ironic or not, but the mindset back then was like, if you're all shred, you're bullshit. Like solos weren't cool back then for some reason. I guess because
But define back then, like what time period are we talking?
So back then was 1995, 96, and we were still kind of in the edge of the um, alternative grunge era,
Yeah.
where shredding and solos was just flair and bullshit and bullshit music. But
Says the guys that can't do it.
and ironically, some of those guys can do it. They just they were all under that formula to like and it makes sense. The song is important. because there's a lot of music out there that you could tell was just created so that people could shred over it. But these dudes had like the right mindset, like put the importance on the songwriting, on the lyric writing, and so I get it now. Back then, I didn't get it. I get it now. But yeah, I was in that era where that what I do now wasn't accepted, and I remember looking for musicians, and they were like, "Why is this going to be all about you?" And I'm telling them, "You don't know who." I would ask them, I was like, "Do you know who Satriani is or why? Do you know any of these people?" And they're like, "Yeah, but you're not that." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess I'm not good enough for you." So they just I guess they just refused the idea, like being part of the idea. So it didn't happen until, and of course, Javier has been a long time friend of mine, and he's always been that fucking little devil on my shoulder saying, "Hey, you need to fucking do this." And so I remember just mentioning it one time, and he was like, "You need to do it." And I was like, "Okay, so if I need to do it, are you willing to help me?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course." So gathered up two more musicians to cover bass and guitar, Kevin and at the time Brian on bass, and we did the Paul Gilbert show. And I mean, it was terrible. Like my top, I hadn't played on a serious note for a few years, so I was rusty. But people still liked it. It was crazy, even with all the sour notes. People still dug it. So I don't know.
Well, I always tell people when it comes to live music, I mean, I'm of the opinion, I know I'm not alone here. When I go to a show, I don't want some like studio sterile sound. You want live, you want raw.
Of course.
Like Eddie Van Halen said, if you fuck up, do it more than once. That way, they think you did it on purpose.
Yeah, and I've taken a page out of that book myself, where it's like, oh, I just hit a raw sour note, and I'll bend up to the right note, or I'll play a similar pattern that sounded kind of like the bad pattern I threw in there, so it kind of it makes its way and smooths out the mistake. So
Yeah, but unless someone's like critiquing you in the crowd, like, "Oh, I'm watching Hector, I'm gonna pay attention to every note." They're not gonna, unless it's a really, really bad note. They're not gonna fucking notice.
I guess so, because I'm up there and I'm hearing it, and I'm just on my own in my own world. I'm just cringing to death. You know.
Well, one, you're always your own worst critic. And two, you know how you want it to sound. So I want this, but I got that. Of course, that's gonna happen. But,
Yeah.
I mean, the average guy at the corner of the bar drinking a beer who's never seen you before is not gonna know that.
I want to say I want to agree with you. I mean, that's what everybody says every time I, play, and to me the performance was subpar. Everybody's like, "No, dude, like it was great. Energy was great. The vibes were awesome. Who gives a fuck if you fucked up? That guy doesn't know what your music's like. He doesn't know your stuff note for note. And if he does, he still doesn't give a shit." I'm like, well, like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like I'm under a microscope. Um, I've kind of gotten rid of that sensation though, that feeling of being under a microscope, because like I'm coming up here to enjoy myself. If you enjoy my music, that's the topping. You know that's the topping on the pie of the cake. But for me, I'm making the cake as we're playing, and I'm tasting it and I'm enjoying it. So like my friend James Rockmore, he took video of the last show that I had for that Power Fest, and he wanted me to mix the music I have recorded, which was our set. Oh, I was working on that last night, and it sounded horrible. So I'm not even gonna bother with it. Like, it's bad. It's really bad. And we hadn't played with Javier in a while, and we didn't even get a lick of practice in because our schedules were so tight. So
But you're referring to the soundboard audio, the recording you put in the booth, right?
mhm.
I mean, as someone who was there on the rail, man, it sounded pretty damn amazing.
Well, thank you. But yeah, no. When I was playing it back last night, trying to do the mix, I came up with a mix, sounded good. Mix was even, but then I started hearing all these notes colliding and crashing. I was like, yeah, that ain't gonna work.
Well, how many hours did you run sound before that? Because I know it was a pretty much a 12, 13-hour day, but you did more than half on it. I don't know how many hours you did, but you did more than 6. I know that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I ran the majority of the show, so I think what was left
You
was
did stage
after
like
me was like
9:30, right?
3 bands, I think.
Again, I want to say you were 9:30 ish. I could be wrong, but I mean,
No, we went on at 10:30 actually. We were a whole hour behind schedule. So like we went on at 10:30, finished about 11:20. Um but I mean, I was good to go. It was just Javier wasn't familiar with the stuff at that point because he had been out of town for such a long time. I just kind of threw him in the fire, basically. And usually what everybody prepares, you know, before we actually have a band rehearsal. And since we didn't have the band rehearsal, we weren't able to iron out anything. Um, so rehearsals usually help with that, and it enables you to see and hear where your shortcomings are.
but also want to give you a lot of credit, not for doing sound, but you guys were a last minute addition. Well, it was Danny's band. I partnered up with them. We
Yeah,
had a lot of bands cast with kids towards the end, and you came and bailed us out. So I just want to put that out there. I want to thank you for that, for your performance and the sound you did. But I mean, it was a last minute book. It's not like, oh, Hector's being lazy and rehearsed. No, he came through in the pinch in the last minute. So that needs to be said.
yeah, yeah, that's true. And the process behind that, because I've done that a couple times already, is I'll I'll s- I'll start seeing, because I have a lot of interaction with a lot of the members of our society, and they'll be like, "Man, this band dropped out. I can't believe they're dropping out last minute." It's like, "Oh shit! Well, um, would you be interested in having an instrumental band, even though it's yeah, whatever, dude. Like, I'm down if it's you, yes." And I'm like, okay. So then, I as soon as that happens, I message everybody, "Hey, you guys available on this date at this time?" And if I get yeses from everybody, it's like it's a go, and that's what happened. But there's been times where it's like, oh, I can't, and I won't do it without any of the members that help me out. Because I know a lot of musicians, but there's only I think a certain few that understand where I come from and are willing to deal with the intricacies of my music. I don't see my music as intricate or technical, but you can ask any motherfucker that's down with me, they'll tell you, "Oh no, Hector's fucking music is so hard," and I'm like, "How?" Like to me, it's not hard, but everybody else is like, "Yeah, no, your shit's hard, dude." Like, and it's an honor to play with you, but it's fucking hard. And I'm like, okay, so so I understand how that works. Um, I still don't see it. To me it's like easy. I think there's people out there that play much more difficult music than I do. So I guess I'm always comparing myself to the bar. I don't consider myself the bar. So I consider, whatever band I see out there and that raises the bar, I'm like, that's the fucking bar right there. And but people are like, no, dude, like you're the bar too. I'm like, nah, I don't see it that way.
So you're always hungry, never satisfied.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way to be. I want to ask you a couple of things. Well, how many bands you have currently? And also, I can't remember who told me this, but I heard a rumor that you may be putting the Pantera tree back together.
Okay, so yeah, the tributes already. We've done a couple shows. I'm gonna say we've done a few shows now in Juarez. So Javi, uh, being a musician in both areas, he books a lot of shows in Juarez, and pretty much we've played over there, yeah, a few times already, and it's been really good. Um, we did a Thursday at a place called Barra Negra, and usually that place is dead on a Thursday, but we had a good turnout. We had some tech difficulties because we were using some new gear that we hadn't used at all before, and so we had some issues. But other than that, it went well. Um, Obviously, some of the original members aren't in there anymore, um, due to health issues and whatnot. Um, but you know,
Shout out to the boss man.
yeah, and I myself, you know, as a man, was like, look, man, we want to continue with this. Do I have your blessing to take it out? And I got the blessing. So, because if they would have told me no, you can't do it with the name, the 333 name, then I'd be like, okay, that's cool, and we'll start over with the new name. But they let me take the name, and you know, so now we're still doing it. We were planning something here, in El Paso, but right now schedules are so tight that it's not gonna happen. I don't. It would have already been booked. It would have been booked by in November, but it's just so crazy right now that it's not gonna happen. So probably next year.
I say, now you fucked up. I'm gonna bug him every month. Hey man, me coming back. I'm coming back.
Hey, no, I'm good with that. I don't mind reminders. Because I'm so lost in my head and all the things that I have planned that I sometimes need a reminder, like, hey man, you guys gonna fucking do this, or are you gonna do this time, or so I it's a wake up cycle.
So you got the Pantera 333 bag. You have THC, the Hector C experiment.
Hmm.
You last night, or not last night, it was Friday.
Hmm.
You had the one off for Union, Texas Roadkill.
Yeah, so I'm in Texas Roadkill. Well, I mean, it was a reunion because the band doesn't really exist per se since Zach moved away. But I am in Cool Factor now, so we do that occasionally. And see, like that, they have to get a guitar player to cover me because I'm so fucking busy doing sound. So they'll get a guitarist to cover me, and I don't mind at all. I mean, I want the band to still be out there and have the name out there because Cold Factor's been around for a long time.
When did you guys first start?
When did I first start with Cold Factor?
Yeah.
Um, you know what? I don't even remember. That's how much of a blur playing is now. Where I cover. It's funny because I covered for them, and they liked me so much. They're like, dude, like it'd be great if you fucking jam with us. Because I don't have an ego. I don't have an attitude. I just want to play. I just want to make a living doing what I was blessed with, which is music. So, I was like, I'm down. If you guys are down to deal and deal with my busyness, we can do this. So they are. And they'll tell me, yeah, we've got this date. Can you do it? And I'm like, no. So instantly it's like, okay, we're gonna go get this guy to cover you. All right. I'm good with that.
As you brought up your busyness, I'm going to segue a few different ways here. You were just telling me off air you have a sound gig over in Ruidoso. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Brian Ramos, who's a pretty big name here in El Paso, musician for a long time here in El Paso. He needed a another body to run his front of house because his front of house had gotten a better gig, and it was during the time when I was kind of stalemated with doing sound around town because people don't really want to pay for sound guys. Um, And so at least they don't want to pay the rate that the sound guy has. So I was like, I was with my lady and we're discussing like, what's my next move? How can I become more obvious to the scene? Because everybody was obviously I'm not here at Rock House as often as I used to be.
You said once upon a time you were here quite a bit.
Yeah, for a good 9 years I was here all the time. And so things change, and I understand that. And so, I bought my own system to do local shows at bars, whatever. And so, I was kind of stalemated with that. So all of a sudden, literally, as we're discussing what my next move was because people were like, "Man, you need to charge less." Blah 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 blah. So I was like, "No, you shouldn't succumb to people asking you to charge less. What people need to realize is your worth. You realize what your worth is. They need to realize it too." And I'm like, "True." And Brian calls, and I was like, "Oh, Brian's calling. What's going on?" And I was actually he texted me, and I was about to answer his text, and then he calls me and said, "What's up?" Okay. And he's like, "Hey man, what are you doing in the next couple weeks?" I'm like, "Nothing. Why? What's going on?" He's like, "Well, I need you to look at your schedule. Need you to look at all your dates. I got all these dates here at the theater. Have you ever worked at theater?" "No, I haven't." "All right, cool." He's like, "I'll show you around. We'll work it out. I know you're bored." He's like, "Are you willing to do monitors?" I was like, "Well, I'm a front of house guy. I've done monitors from front of house, but I'm flexible, whatever." And so he gave me all these dates that just ran till December. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Like, this is what I want. So, he's all, think about it, you know, call me in a couple days, let me know. But I already knew what I wanted. So, I gave it a couple days, called them. I was like, bro, I'm in. Cool. And so, at the Spencer Theater is my new gig doing front of house. And it's honestly, when you get to that level of professionalism, um, it's no longer the I don't want to like insult people, but if you get into this business to want to get signed, a lot of the bands are missing the biggest detail, which is to be ready at the drop of a dime, to have all your bases covered, and have your shit ready. Be ready for the fucking shitstorm. And so when I first stepped foot there and did I forget the first band I did, and it was, these guys came with their own mics. I mean, we have house mics actually, but they came with their own mics and their stage plot. And I mean, I've already dealt with that, because I dealt with all the nationals and regionals that come through Rock House. So I was already ready for that in that sense, but I wasn't ready for the lack of attitude and just the overall professionalism that these people show up with. I mean, these guys will come in directing you. Like they'll be like, "Hey, so okay, you're front of house, cool, and your monitors, all right, guys, come over here," and they'll literally just stand there with you and have a conversation, and just tell you exactly what they need. They hand you their stage plot, their line, their line list, and then you go off and do your thing, or you work with them till you have to go off and do your thing. There's no crying, there's no bitching, there's no moaning. It's all fucking let's get this done so we can just chill out till it's time to fucking play. And it's, for example, one of the people that I got to meet was Carmine Appice, or Carmine, no, actually Carmine Appice. It's just I have friends that call him Appice. It's a bad habit. But Carmine Appice was the drummer to one of the bands that it was a Rod Stewart tribute that he's
Oh,
in.
okay, got you.
Oh my god, dude! This this guy was a full on gentleman, and I think he's from New York. He's got the accent and all that. He's got the tude, but it's like there was nothing mean about the guy. He was just like, "What's your name?" I'm like, "Hector." "Hector." "Okay, cool." He's all like, "I like you." He's all like, "This is what I need." And so I mic'd him up as we were talking. "Okay, I'm good now. Thank you so much." And that was it. There was none of this like, I don't like the way you place this. Like, why did you do this? Why did you touch my drum? Nothing. It was just all high end, high end, high caliber musician, fucking veteran, I should say, of
Well, that's putting it mildly, but
and I think, fuck, I can't remember if that was before or after Ozzy's passing. I think it was before, and you know. just being around a person of that caliber, that's it's a whole other line of work, you know, and work is smooth. There's no second guessing because a lot of these guys that I've dealt with that are there's some pretty big bands that have come through here. They do a lot of this second guessing bullshit where they're gaslighting you, and it's like, why do you have to try to come across as better than me or bigger than me? You know, we all bleed. Don't give me that bullshit. You know, we all bleed red. So what is this attitude about? You know, and these people, they just show up. They tell you what they need, what they want, or what they've got. You hook it all up, ready to go. At the end of the night, they're happy. They're telling you, great job. They appreciate you, and on to the next city.
Yeah, local bands. There's on a lesson or two in there. Just want to say,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, like, so I'm, I was a pretty big hard ass back in the day. And so I understand what that mentality entails, you know, because I would be very particular when I would do shows in town. And, you know, some of the sound guys or some of the venues would just look at us like, you guys are local. I'm like, no, dude, like, we are local, but I know we don't sound local. And I know what I want, and I know that I want to make it. Like, work with us, dude. And I was always just like, you guys are just fucking locals. It's like, all right, cool, whatever, you know. And seeing that for myself on the other side of the fence as a sound tech, it's like I appreciate it because there's no arguing, there's no fighting, and there's no bad blood by the time the show's done. Like everybody's happy and they leave. You know, they'll come up to you, shake your hand, tell you thank you for your work and for a good job done, and that's it. You know.
so what advice would you give to our local and regional bands who play not just here, but say Lowbrow or Monarch or anywhere else in town? Like what are the most common mistakes that our locals make, and what do you think they need to focus on?
Just being careless, um, not being prepared. You know, there's a lot of expectation without communication. So there's a lot of mind reading that they expect. Um, even you know, even with people that I've recorded, when they play live, like they still haven't crossed that threshold where it's like, oh, okay, I've got all my shit in order. Everybody's got their gear ready. It's like my biggest pet peeve is, and I think it's mostly anybody's pet peeve at this point, is drummers being told to be prepared to take their kit up on stage, set it up as quickly as it can, and then break it down off stage. But and then the other one is the one that I've noticed is like the crowd wants to talk to you so bad. Like I've noticed, like there's a lot of good fucking bands here, you
Yeah,
know.
no doubt.
Um, regardless of their work ethic, there's a lot of fucking great musicianship going on, but they forget that they're at a show on a time constraint. And as soon as somebody says, "Hey man, I want your set list," and oh, give me your fucking CD and your T-shirt, and I want this, and let's take a picture. It's like, dude, you're not off stage yet. You have 15 minutes to get the fuck off. Actually, you have less if you think about it because the changeover is 15 minutes. So
Yeah, 7.5.
half of that is yours, and the other half is the band coming on. And they're just there's no cooperation, there's no consideration for the other band or for what's been set because a lot of the time the venue takes the hit. They may not you may not see the hit on stage, but you'll see the fucking hit. You'll see the TM fucking storm into the venue owner's office and be like, "Hey man, what the fuck happened? Like your fucking locals took fucking 40 minutes to get on fucking stage. Or they played 10 extra minutes just because they thought, oh, well, we, we, we went over a 30-minute set, but when they started, they only had 20 minutes left. You know, no one ever thinks about this shit. And it's really important. It's super important to keep time um in mind because the let's just say you're gonna get paid as a local band. The I'm sure the TM could change that for you. If you're gonna get a percentage off ticket sales, I'm sure the TM will fucking hit you in the nuts and tell you, sorry man, you fucking got on, you had a 30-minute set, you played 10 minutes over your set, and now we're in this, now we're in a time constraint because we were supposed to start at 11 and it's 11:30 now, you know, and you have to, when you set foot into the venue, you have to think of yourself as a pro, not as a local. Um, I remember when I played bass for Fuel to Fire. Um, that's when some of the Razor members, the Pissing Razors members, were had formed another band. I was a bass player, and we played what used to be Tricky Falls. I forget the name of it. Oh, Club Escape. And we opened up for Static X,
Nice. That's a good gig.
the killer gig. When we showed up, those dudes weren't fucking playing at all. So they had a TM and they also had a fucking stage manager. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was the same dude because I saw like three dudes that were like running the show. So we got up there and they're like, bring it, bring it, bring it. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Where are you going? Where are you going? Right here. Okay, go now. It's like, damn, dude, like, you're not explaining shit, you know? And then, the band had to have their plan ready because if not, these guys were going to sit you wherever they felt like they needed to sit you. And so they did that to us. They put us in our spots and, they said, hook up, you know, put all your lines together and get the fuck off. I was like, damn, man, these guys are rude. And I didn't know how that shit worked. That was my first time playing a show that big. And, you know, um, they had already sound checked and all that good stuff. We hadn't sound checked. We just did a line check and away we went. I don't even, you know what? I don't even think we line checked. I think, because I remember I, um, I thought we were supposed to go out already. So I walked out and I thumped my bass and did this shit. I raised my arms like this, and I had the crowd at my fucking command, like they were fucking cheering back and all this crap. So I was pounding on my bass and like working it, and then my bandmates were like, "Dude, you're on early. Dumbass, get off stage." And I was like, "Oh, I couldn't hear them." So then they were forced to come up on stage, and we just went. I don't remember anything being fucking like, "Give me your kick, give me your snare." I don't remember any of that. But that what stayed with me about that show was how concise these dudes were about getting you up on stage and getting you off. Get your gear up on stage and get the fuck off. That's what it was. There were no niceties. It was all up, get off. And I was like, damn, man. I was like, is this how it is? Like, and it can be that way. I've never seen it like that here, which I guess I don't know if there was a shift in how people have acted, but I mean, I've had my share of assholes here. I remember one time with the Browning, the other band that was with them, their TM was. They even warned me. The singer of the Browning, he was like, "This guy acts like a twerp. You let me know. I'm gonna fuck him up." I was like, "Damn." And, and sure enough, he did. He acted like a total asshole. I didn't even know what I did wrong. I was still learning terminology and all that kind of stuff, and all the jargon that comes with working on stage, and I didn't understand it all yet. And this dude fucking yelled at me and cussed me out and told me to get the fuck out of his face, and And then so I was like, well, you know what? I don't appreciate that. So I went and told this dude, and he was like, where is that motherfucker? And he calls him. He's like, get your ass back. He fucking drove back after leaving. He drove back. He's all, what's up? He's all, oh. And he fucking just tore into him. He didn't act an ass and yell at him. He just told him like in a normal tone, hey man, we don't appreciate you talking to this guy here like this. Like he works here. If there's things that he didn't understand or you didn't understand, there's a way to, compromise and learn from it. We don't need this kind of attitude. He's like, you've had this attitude the entire tour. He's all, this is your last straw. You do this one more time tonight, you're out. I was like, damn. And this dude came and he was like, oh, I just want to say if I did anything to you, I'm sorry. I was like, if you did anything? I was like, bro, you were acting like an asshole. Well, there's strong words, but I'm sorry. I was like, okay. He's all, give me my bag. I was like, oh, you're going to start again? I go, your bag's right there, bro. You got hands. And so he picked up his bag and left. I was like, dang, man, still. But not to be a dick, I didn't say anything about that, but he was still, still pulling his shit. But yeah, there's a way to handle business when you show up to a show with your band to play. You got to remember that when you got asked to play the show, there's set times. The standard is 15 minutes between sets. Sometimes the TMs are cool enough and they'll be like, no, we got 20 minutes. So that gives each band 10 minutes to get up and get off before and after their set. And I think that's the biggest thing is time management. Because I can tell you right now, as being on tour, supporting a major act, they want you to be on time and manage the time on stage setting up because you know if you ruin the time for sometimes these venues they'll tell you like if you ruin the time for the locals they'll get pissed and they'll treat you differently for having ruined the locals time to load in and sound check. And seeing that was like, whoa, these guys actually give a shit about their locals. So it's like, okay. But yeah, to me, I think time management is the biggest thing that locals need to think about. Because not just that, not just like the whole thing where like the crowd is calling them and come take a picture with me kind of stuff. I think it's also because I've noticed um, band members. I'm going to use the word lollygagging.
Oh, that's one way to put it. Yeah.
I've seen them just lollygagging. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm trying to check your guitar. I need you to get on your guitar. Oh, we're starting now? I'm like, no, I'm checking you now so that by the time we start, we don't have anything to worry about. Oh, well, it's just I'm waiting for the other guitarist to bring his rig. I go, what does that have to do with you? Nothing. Can you give me your guitar? Okay, now give me your vocal. Cool, we're good. Well, it says I just wanted to wait for him because we like to check guitars together. I'm like, okay. So when he comes in, I'll have him play and I'll check his level. If his level's too high, I'll have him turn down. If it's too low, I'll have him turn up. I go, I'm not opposed to turning up guitars. I go, you need to still be considerate of levels. Like, well, that's what I want to do. I get it. We already did you. We'll work it out when he gets here. And it's just it doesn't compute. It's so weird. It's like I don't know what you're so caught up in, but that'll get taken care of.
You gotta be flexible, but even that sounds like a non-issue. Just fucking do it. Takes 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, time management. I'm gonna say is the main thing. That's the main thing that bands need to like really work on because I've seen bands actually bring clocks to the fucking stage, and they fucking set a timer.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Um, Heinous Mutation. They always have a clock when they're playing big shows. They always have a clock, and it's going, and they're on their shit.
Yeah, they did was a Southwest Metal Fest back in August. I mean, they were never slow, but oh my god, they fell off the stage like in 2 minutes.
See, and they're one of the better bands in a lot of aspects. Musicality, musicianship, and how they handle themselves on stage. They understand time management like it's painfully obvious, you know. But yeah, that's a big thing, man, because I've seen bands literally not give a shit about the band after them um getting their set cut. And it sucks too because they'll I've been there, I'm on the and and it's a big no for me to get on the mic and be like, you have one song left. You have one song left. And they're saying, oh, we got three more songs left. It's like, you've got one more song left, and they fucking go through it. I'm like, dude, and I'll go up to the stage and be like, hey, I said one more. That's it. And they fucking blow me off. I'm like, all right. And, I've never been the dude. I did it once. I was told to mute the board because the band wouldn't get off. But there was a miscommunication between the venue and the promoter and the promoter and I. The promoter didn't tell me that they had changed the set times. So they're like, cut him, cut him. I was like, dude, I don't want to cut him. Cut him now. I was like, that shit was embarrassing. So, I won't cut a band in that way, but I'll go up to the stage and be like, look, man, I did tell you one more song. This is your last song, you know? And they get pissed. You know, they don't like me at the end of the night. It's like, you know what? That's not my fault. That's your fault because you weren't paying attention. You were told you had 20 minutes to play. You started playing, and now you have 10 minutes left. When you could have started on time, you chose to poke your ass. Well, hey, guy, talk with these people. I'm telling you on the mic, let's go. I'm ready. Because every time I set up somebody, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. And most people respond, but there's been those that don't, and they're on their own time, I guess. But it's odd, and I mean that's what will set you know bands that get noticed from those that get pushed to the side. I mean, because there's a lot of politics involved with getting a show. There's a lot of politics with you know who's gonna get to play a badass show with a big band. And if you don't understand the basics, you can't cry and be there whining and saying, well, we're just as good as that band. Well, yeah, but you just didn't understand how time works. That's a big deal. It's a big fucking deal.
I would say that, and I know you haven't gone here yet, but I would say just building your following. Just post a flyer every day, dude. I ship post tons of flyers every day. It takes me 2 minutes in the morning. It's not that hard.
That's true too. Um, so I've seen the war on flyering online, and the venues will say that's not my job, and then the band will say, well, you're supposed to help us out. You know, it's a two-way street.
Definitely, I agree.
It's a two-way street, and both should be doing. But if you notice that one of the few bands that you have on the show isn't putting flyers out, come on. You you don't have to be rude. Just be like, hey man, we've been posting. The other four bands have been posting. We haven't seen a post from you. Are you gonna post? Because if you're not gonna post, we can't have you on the show. Simple as that. You know, fuck it. If you already have your mindset on it, if you're not doing the work, why should you be on the show? Well, you deserve it. You're entitled to it. I mean, entitlement's a bullshit fucking pipe dream. Like, no, like,
I think you got to build your following too. It's not just the flyers, but if if you're not at the shows, if you're not networking, you need to be online, you need to be doing an Instagram video or something. Okay, here's 30 seconds of Hector C's new raw guitar track. Just something. Every day you gotta let people know who you are.
Yeah.
If you don't engage for 6 months and you expect to get a show and people are gonna show up, it's not gonna fucking happen.
Well, and see, I guess you could say I'm guilty of that because I don't, I don't promote my myself or the band in that way. I don't have a Instagram for that or Facebook for that. Um, just because I'm doing it for fun. But when I do have the show, when I've been given a show, I do post. I do post some, me playing some runs, but I don't do it like on a daily where like, you'll go through my Instagram like, damn man, this guy's shredding every day. I don't do that shit. I'm no longer focused on, you know, letting people know that I'm a guitarist or a musician. It's like people find out and they're like, "Oh shit, I didn't know you played." I'm like, "Yeah, I play. I've been playing for since I was 2 years old." And you know, I don't, I don't do any of that until I have to play a show. So on that aspect, yes, I
But you
do.
also have a rep and you have a following. You're not some 19-year-old kid just starting off.
No, I'm not. I mean, I I have worked my ass off for many years as a musician. Um, I mean, I've been playing live shows since I was 16.
So I want to ask you, when did you first pick up the guitar? Like, when did you start learning, and at what point did you say, "Hey, I want to do this"? Like, when did you go from hobbyist to this is what I want to do with my life?
Well, actually, literally since I was 2 years old, I wanted to fucking play. Cause, and it's weird because there was this show back in the day in 1979. There was a show called 321 Contact, and they had it, and it was on PBS, and they showed the behind the scenes for a Kiss show, a Kiss concert. And I just remember watching it. I was like, "What is that?" There's all these lights, and then all of a sudden I saw Kiss. And the only reason I knew about Kiss is because my dad had, and I still have his record, the Destroyer record. And so, having seen that, having heard them as a kid, him playing his records, when they came on 321 Contact, I was like, "Oh, that's Kiss!" I remember running to my mom, "Mom, Kiss is on TV," and she's just kind of like, "Okay." And so I went and grabbed my guitar and I started strumming, and I would form chords. I didn't realize were chords, and I'd be playing, and then they show him kind of playing, and they showed Ace Frehley fucking demolishing his guitar. So I went and pretended like I was smashing my guitar too, and I really wanted to smash it, but I knew like I couldn't do that. I'd get in trouble. But that forever stuck in my head, and I already had the sounds of Van Halen, um, Kiss, I forget what other bands, but those are the main two that were in my head as a child. And I would constantly mess around with my guitar. One of the I would always play on my uncle's guitars when he would leave. He would leave the house for work or school because I think he was still a teenager at the time. David Noriega is his name. And I'd go to his room. I'd pile up the pillows like this and grab his full size guitar and start playing it. And one of the first melodies I learned how to play was "Diary of a Madman." And I hope that didn't sound like diarrhea. Uh, I speak really poorly, but I learned "Diary" and just the melody, and it stuck with me. And I was like, man, that kind of I felt like I knew what I was doing. And I see the fret markers and run power chords, not knowing there were power chords, and then inverting them, not knowing that they were turning into thirds, and I would just do that along the neck. And what sounded good, which was like the diatonic tones, tones that are in key, I would start forming. I was like, ah. So like the guitar was making sense to me. You know, my dad caught me at an early age, probably about the same time, humming original melodies that were in my head. And he would ask me, "What song was that?" I was like, "Oh, it's just something that was in my head." And I get shy and stop, you know. But I've been very musical for since then. I don't know if maybe even earlier, but for sure since then because I recall that. And so when it went on full force was um well, I mean, it had been full force. The problem is that I popped my strings. And at that point my parents didn't have a lot of money to like go buy stuff. So I wouldn't tell them like, hey, I popped strings, you know. And it wasn't until later that um my parents got me like a a 3/4 scale acoustic. I started playing the shit out of that. I would even attach headphones to the inside of the sound hole and put it through my tape recorder, and turn up the level and it fucking distort like an electric guitar. And my dad and my mom were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing." You know, I didn't want them to see what I was doing because, you know, to me, I was like, "Man, I'm doing bad shit," you know. And so I learned that headphones were a type of microphone. It's like they ended up utilizing speakers to pick up, you know, bass notes from a kick drum. I was doing the same thing you know, way in advance before that shit ever was developed, you know. And so I always fucked with sound somehow. I always fucked around with guitars. If I had a friend that had an electric guitar, I'd be like, "Can I touch your electric guitar?" And they hated it, but I would. I'd touch the shit, and they're like, "All right, that's enough." I'm like, "Why can't I play your guitar?" "No, you're doing weird shit." I'm like, "It's because you don't know what metal is, fucker." You know. So you know, I started in that sense, but when I hit sixth grade, I started writing and recording my own songs, like full on. I I met a friend named Sean Miller at the time, and he had a karaoke machine. I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "It's a karaoke machine." I was like, "Oh, cool." I was like, "Could I use that?" He's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" Because he had a 4 track that we fucked with, and I wondered, can that happen with this karaoke machine? So I started overdubbing uh, my playing and started creating songs that way. So then next thing you know, I had a tape player at home, and one of my older tape players that was kind of busted, that was playing at a slower speed. I started doubling up the signal and writing songs that way. I wrote, I literally wrote a tape, like I recorded, I forget what cassette tape I recorded over, but I recorded over a cassette tape my dad had. He got pissed.
So you put tape on the top to it.
Oh, he was fucking pissed, dude. But I recorded my own original tunes on that shit. And I took it to school one day, and one of my friends was like, "What are you listening to?" I was like, "Oh, it's some shit I recorded at home. Let me borrow it." I'm like, all right. I didn't see that tape for like a whole fucking month. I was like, "Dude, I want my tape back." "Oh, sorry, yeah, I brought it." So he had my tape back, and he's like, "Dude, that's sick. So you wrote all this shit?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude." And then I remember just, you know, being on the phone with friends. I'm like, "Hey, check this out. I did this on my recorder." And I put, you know, the receiver to the speaker, and they're like, "You did that?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And like my friend Sean started getting really annoyed because every time I'd stay the night at his place, he'd be like, "Dude, I want to record." "Yes, I know you want to record." I'm like, "Dude, it's just you've got an electric guitar. I don't have one yet." And fucking, I'd be composing shit. He'd leave for like 3 hours with his mom, and by the time he was back, he was like, "Let me guess, you wrote a song." I was like, "No, I got 2 songs." And he'd be like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I hear stuff all the time." And so I got that. involved. And then I ended up, so I didn't have a karaoke machine, but I still had the two tape players. So what I would do is record one of the tape players. Using one of the tape players, I would record my guitar, and then I'd place that guitar track through my guitar amp on the clean channel, and then I would put the other recorder, cover it with a blanket or a towel, and then play drums to it. And then all of a sudden, I've got a song that has drums and guitar. And so I would jam. I had my own jam fucking tapes, and it's funny because I would keep, I would count and keep track of how many times I played this passage and how many times I played the next part. So I knew my A, B's, and C's and back to A and B and all that kind of shit, right? All the sections. And I would do the same with the drumming, and I'd have a whole fucking song. Dude, I have like two full tapes of that shit when I didn't have a band, and I was just writing stuff. And then later on in college, I met a dude that played drums. He was total fucking badass. We were both into progressive metal, and he recorded. Well, we recorded what we jammed out, and then I ended up overdubbing guitars and leads to that, and then vocals. And then I showed him. I was like, "Dude, let's do this." He was like, "Nah, I don't have time for that. I'm gonna go to the fucking Air Force." I was like, "Oh," and I told him, I was like, "You're gay, bro." I was like, "And these let's play like one show." He's like, "No." He got mad. Well, he got mad because I called him gay. He wasn't gay, right? But he got mad, and I was like, "All right." And then I finally formed a band. He came back into town. He's like, "Let's jam." I was like, "I have a band, dude. Sorry, we got a gig this weekend if you want to go to it." He went and he fucking left. He just never talked to me again. But it was so weird because you know I'd always been really really into what I was doing. It was never just for fun. I wanted to fucking make it. I wanted to be I wanted to become a signed artist. I wanted to come out in the next Guitar Player magazine on the cover. I wanted to be that dude. But it didn't turn out that way, and I'm good with it.
Now, how is the recordings? Did you ever think about releasing ones like Hector C, the Lost Tapes, or
I did at one point, but they're too rough. And I know some people like listening to like non-produced or overly produced material, but uh, it's I guess at this point to me, it's not worth the energy, and it's more a sentimental thing, kind of like I leave it for myself because I'm the one that was enjoying it and basking in it. So it's my gem.
now would you put out? Are you recording any current material? Because we said earlier you're the executive producer over at Strange Days. I know you just did Ojo Models album,
Yep.
and you just had a little bit in there recently. I forget which one, but you guys,
F bombs.
yeah, the Battle of Bands one is over at the Coliseum.
Yeah. Oh man, those dudes got down. They got down. Um, I want to record my instrumental shit and just get it out of the way because that shit is as old as 1995.
You mean some of the stuff we hear here, like Powerfest?
Yeah, some of that stuff is that old. And what I actually did back in the day, um, when I was using Windows 98, I had a program called Cakewalk, and I would do all my
I remember Cakewalk.
yeah, yeah. So I would program all my drums on that, and I had two eight decks. I would record to that, and I would literally just create demo tapes. And maybe I should have taken them a little bit more serious and just gone full production instead of just demo because they sat there forever. That music just sat there. I didn't have people that were interested in joining me on my journey. They were just like, you know. And from what I learned later on is like there was a lot of hate with what I was doing because I wasn't doing what most people were. Most people were in a band, and I was here at home by myself, creating music that I wanted to fucking play with people that weren't interested in playing with me. So, I think I should have just taken a little bit more time and made a full produced you know collection of songs and put that out. You know,
Well, you have full access to pretty vast equipment, so you're gonna have excuses there.
I do, and you know what? There's no excuse. It's just I know I know the people that I want involved with it, and they're just fucking busy as hell. So I guess the day that they have a few minutes to spare, I'm gonna fucking just take them in there, and even if we record the material live, I can still manipulate it and do the full produced thing. But as long as I can get the drums and the bass live, I still have room to play with the guitars and get the guitars to the point where I want them, where they sound pleasing to me. But yeah, I I had that plan. It's just like because when Sergio Becerra, when he was helping me out, we were already planning on recording, but his band, the Roulettes, those dudes, those dudes are signed to a label and their shit's taking off. And by no means do I want to get in the way of that. It's I he hung in there with me as long as he could, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm not gonna fucking hey bro, I know you're busy, but I need you to I can't do that to the guy. I mean, he's spread pretty thin because that band is so fucking active. I think they're probably the most active band in El Paso right now.
Probably.
You know, and it's honestly it's great to see because they got their beginnings were here at the Rock House, and I was the sound guy most of the time, fucking doing their sound, and they had low turnouts back then, and I was like, man, no one fucking sees what I'm fucking seeing here. Like these dudes are on full pro mode, like they want it, you know. And then they started writing originals, and I was like, damn, they're gonna fucking eat that. They're gonna fucking make people eat that shit. And sure enough, like people are eating it up, you know. And I'm very happy to see that shit. So yeah, I there are boundaries. I'm not gonna cross those boundaries, If somebody is readily available and has the chops and says, hey, I want to help you, by all means, I put out some stuff because I had some Hector C experiment stuff already. Like I put out a song called Devin Smile. Devin's my son, and he smiled. I have the picture on there actually for the release. He's smiling. He's an infant, and he's fucking full on smile. Um, and I released that last month, I think it was, and
All platforms, Spotify,
all
Apple.
platforms, yeah, everywhere. Um, Prior to that, I released a song dedicated to my dad. It was called "In Tears," and then I also released under another name. I have the moniker used is This Heaviness, and it's a band that I have the blueprints for it in my head. I just haven't rounded up people for it. Um, but I've got two songs released that I just wanted to release, under some name. And I'm drawing a blank on the title of the names, but Snipping Toward Death is one of them. Um, but yeah, like I've got those out also. So I've got like 5 tunes or three, no, 4 tunes out already. And people have listened to them, but people don't really give a shit, and I'm good with that. I'm every time I try to link myself up to like European sites, um, I get sidetracked. I get fucking sidetracked by life. But that's my plan to try to inject that into their stream and see if they pick up on it. You know, I also put out the 5393 release, the only release we ever did. And I know there's people out there talking shit because it's come back to me where they, they're like, man, you're stuck on an old dream. I'm like, I'm not stuck on shit. Like, I had so many people bug me day in, day out for I don't know how many years, at least a decade after we were fucking done. Like, put that shit on fucking Spotify, man. I want to hear you. I want to hear your shit. It's like, are you really gonna listen to it? Yes. As soon as I put it out and I fucking emailed everybody and told them what's what, the numbers show me that that was all just hot air. You know?
It's all past. That's gonna happen. Mhm.
Yeah. So
If 20 people is telling me to listen to my podcast tonight, I'll get 3.
there you go. And that's how it works. And you know, that's a sad case. Because I had a discussion with a good friend of mine the other day about that. That he released his, he finally released his new material, and the people that are biting are in Europe and overseas. Those are the people that are biting, And man, fuck it, so be it.
If you notice like music trends, even like metal, power metal, hip hop, like Europe and South America, they'll have few shows that have these ginormous festivals of people just like packed to the fucking gills.
Yeah,
And it's crazy.
yeah, yeah. I think. I don't really know a lot about like geographical this or that and what people do or don't do, but you know, I think they're not walking zombies like U.S. citizens are. You know, you can turn and look to your left, to your right, and somebody's on their fucking phone with their neck broken face downward, and they could be at a fucking show and it's the same shit. It's like, dude, like, did you come to the show to just be like you are at home, or did you come to enjoy the fucking show?
It's funny, like my stepdad went to the doctor and he corrected about his posture. It's like, hey, when you're reading your phone, you need to stand up and do this. Like you're fucking your posture up by leaning down.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it has a lot to do with how technology has taken over people's lives, and I don't think it's that bad in other countries. One, probably because they can't afford it, in third world countries or whatnot, and two, because there's culture. I think there's a, a bigger sense of being and living in other countries than there is here because we take so much shit for granted here. You know, so I think when they get shows, it's like a grand event. Because when we get shows here, it's like, oh, it's that band. Oh, it's that. You know, people people are more excited about traveling to the show than they are to get to the show. And the travel involves, eating and just low low attention span things, you know, versus the actual show, which requires your attention span for an hour to an hour and 30 minutes. Maybe even 2 hours, depending how big the band is. But whatever, man.
That concludes part one of our Hector C interview. I broke it into two just to make it a little more digestible. Part two will pick up right where we left off.